ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Dakṣa. So we are in the section where Lord Brahmaji has prayed to Lord Śiva, and Lord Śiva revives Daksha's life, and all others are revived to certain extent, but not to the fullest extent. So we are at text 6. Maitreya uvacha तदा सर्वाणि भूतानि श्रुत्वा मीढुं तमोदितं परितुष्टात्माभिस्तात साधु साधु इति अब्रुवन्. Translation.
The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the benedictors." Purport. In this verse, Lord Shiva is described as Midushtama, the best of the benedictors. He is also known as Ashutosha, which indicates that he is very quickly satisfied and very quickly angered. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that less intelligent persons go to the demigods for material benedictions. In this connection, people generally go to Lord Shiva, and because he is always quickly satisfied and he gives benedictions to his devotees without consideration, he is called Midushtama, or the best of the benedictors. Materialistic persons are always anxious to get material profit, but they are not serious about spiritual profit. Sometimes, of course, it so happens that Lord Shiva becomes the best benedictor in spiritual life. It is said that once a poor Brahmana worshipped Lord Shiva for a benediction, and Lord Shiva advised the devotee to go to see Sanatana Goswami. The devotee went to Sanatana Goswami and informed him that Lord Shiva had advised him to seek out the best benediction from him, Sanatana. Sanatana had a touchstone with him, which he kept with the garbage. On the request of the poor Brahmana, Sanatana Goswami gave him the touchstone, and the Brahmana was very happy to have it. He now could get as much gold as he desired simply by touching the touchstone to iron. But after he left Sanatana, he thought, if a touchstone is the best benediction, why had Sanatana Goswami kept it with the garbage? He therefore returned and asked Sanatana Goswami, "Sir, if this is the best benediction, why did you keep it with the garbage?" Sanatana Goswami then informed him, "Actually, this is not the best benediction. But are you prepared to take the best benediction from me?" The Brahmana said, "Yes, sir. Lord Shiva has sent me to you for the best benediction." Then Sanatana Goswami asked him to throw the touchstone in the water nearby and then come back. The poor Brahmana did so. And when he returned, Sanatana Goswami initiated him with the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna and was thus initiated in the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Maitreya Vacha. Maitreya says, great sage Maitreya will continue. My dear Vidura, Tata. So he's saying, so this is a very beautiful word actually, Tata. So Durgatim Tata Gacchati, very, very compassionate. This word is filled with a lot of Vatsalya Bhav. My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in their heart and soul upon hearing these words of Lord Shiva's benedictions and how he is restoring back, who is also called as the best of the benedictors. Sadhu, sadhu. They were very happy and they accepted the benediction. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Lord Shiva is both best of the benedictors and he's also Ashitosha. Now, what else is required? He is very quickly satisfied and gives whatever the sadhaka or whatever the sadhaka wants, Lord Shiva will give indiscriminately. So this is, and therefore, in a way, demigod worship is not very highly glorified in Bhagavad Gita because demigods, when they are giving worship, demigods, they themselves are pure devotees. At least the top 5, 6 of them, they are we have seen in, previously how these are very great personalities. But as a rule of the law, of the universal rule, they will give the benedictions when somebody performs a particular type of austerity. Like Hiranyakashipu performed austerity, Lord Brahmā gave him all different varieties of benedictions. Bhasmasur, Vrikasur, they performed austerity. Lord Shiva gave them all different benedictions, which were the very crazy demands of this crazy demon. And they will give. But that is not the case with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna will absolutely not give any benediction, however one may do whatever kind of austerity. Right? And therefore, there is always purification of the Lord when one worships Lord Viṣṇu. Right? Whereas somebody may worship Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, although Lord Brahma is a purest devotee. He has a Brahma Sampradaya and he is our Adi Guru, right? Lord Shiva is the pure Vaishnavana Yatha Shambho, but in the capacity of the demigod, when they are awarding benedictions, it will not purify the person who is doing tapasya, but it will just fulfill the benediction, just fulfill the desire. And people in general, they are just worried about material desires, and therefore their natural tendency of the people is to approach the demigods. But sometimes somebody may approach Lord Shiva and look for the highest benediction. So there was a Prabhupada now narrates a beautiful story of a great Brahmana who was a very wonderful devotee of Lord Shiva. And he approached Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva was very pleased. And he did not ask him anything. He said that just give me whatever is best for me. He was such a innocent Brahmana he was. Poor Brahmana. And then he said, Lord Shiva, he is a very great friend of Sanatana Goswami. So when you go to Vrindavan, there is Chakaleshwar Mahadev, and there are other temples. And especially near the Bhajana Sthali of Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami has 2 Bhajana Sthali. One is in Vrindavan, another is in Govardhan. And both these places, Lord Shiva is very nearby. And there are many wonderful discussions about stories about Lord Shiva, really, really enjoying writings of Sanatana Goswami in the form of Mahadeva Murti. And one day it is said that Sanatana Goswami that time, he was one day troubled by so many mosquitoes around. And he decided to leave this place. And Lord Shiva came in the dream of Sanatana Goswami and said that please wait for a day and tomorrow all mosquitoes will gone. And in the meanwhile, Lord Shiva, he called the mosquito in charge demigod and he said that please vacate this place. What to speak of mosquito, I don't want any insect to disturb Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatan should not leave me. And this is the very deep friendship between Sanatana Goswami and Lord Shiva. So Sanatana Goswami, so this Brahmana was sent to Sanatana Goswami. And Lord Shiva told this Brahmana that Sanatana Goswami has a touchstone. Touchstone means anything that you will touch will become gold. And Lord Shiva, he asked Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami said, yeah, I have a touchstone. Just look in my garbage dustbin, and there you will find some touchstone is there. And then he just went near the garbage dustbin and then found in the garbage, beautiful touchstone, and whatever he was touching was turning into gold. He picked up that touchstone. Now just imagine if somebody has a touchstone, whatever you touch becomes gold. Iron will become gold. He came home, this is another versions of stories are also there beautifully. And his wife said that you should understand, the Sanatana Goswami is keeping the touchstone in garbage. That means he will have another something greater, far greater than this touchstone. And she was thinking maybe he will have something by touching the things, the stone will become the touchstone, and all we will have so many touchstones. Correct. And then he ran back to Sanatana Goswami and said that, my dear Sanatana Goswami, you gave me the best benedictions, but your best benediction was in the garbage. So that means you have much higher than the touchstone. And Sanatana Goswami said, of course I have. But that is the spiritual benediction. And for that to receive, you have to throw this touchstone in this vast Yamuna. So when the Brahmana had the choice, if he throws the touchstone in Yamuna, there is no question of again, receiving that touchstone back. And he had a faith in Lord Śiva, he had faith in Sanatana Goswami, he threw the touchstone, and then Sanatana Goswami initiated him in Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the cost of initiation for the Brahmana, throwing the touchstone away. Right. So, this is how Lord Śiva will also give the benediction. There is a beautiful discussion which comes in Padma Puran, where Lord Parvati was in one day she was in a little light mood. And she was trolling her husband, and she said that, my dear husband, look at all the kind of people, they come to you. So Kisuko wants to break some head, and then Ravana was your devotee, and this and that. They come with so many, filled with material desires. And it is actually, on a higher plane, it is very, very disgusting to have an interaction where there is a lot of expectations from return. Right. So it is not a selfless love. People do some tapasya for you, but there is so much of expectations they have. But what if somebody comes to you with a pure desire, and what you will do to him? He has no material desire. And then Lord Śiva, he said that, my dear wife, Parvati, for such a personality, at the time of his death, in his ears, I will personally go and chant the names of Shri Hari and give him complete mukti. So this is how Lord Śiva is the best of the benedictors and the greatest of the devotees. So he pleased all the demigods very well, and everybody was satisfied. Text 7. Tata Meedavan Samamantya Shunasira Sahasribi Bhuyat Tatha Devayajanam Sa Meedhavat Vedasayayu. Translation.
Thereafter, Bhrigu, the chief of the great sages, invited Lord Śiva to come to the sacrificial arena. Thus, the demigods, accompanied by the sages, Lord Śiva and Lord Brahmā, all went to the place where the great sacrifice was being performed. Purport: the whole sacrifice arranged by King Dakṣa had been disturbed by Lord Śiva. Therefore, all the demigods present there, along with Lord Brahmā and the great sages, specially requested Lord Śiva to come and revive the sacrificial fire. There is a common phrase, Shiva Hina Yajña. Any sacrifice without the presence of Lord Śiva is baffled. Lord Viṣṇu is Yajñeshvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in matter of sacrifice, yet in each yajna, it is necessary for all the demigods headed by Lord Brahmā and Lord Śiva to be present. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thereafter, Bhrigu. Now, Bhrigu is very important personality. He was the personality who drove away Shivanugas, the chief of the great sages. He invited Lord Śiva to come to the sacrificial area. So personally, Bhrigu arrived there, and Bhrigu was requesting Lord Śiva. And then all the demigods, the sages, Lord Śiva, Brahma, all of them went to the place where the sacrificial arena was there, the sanctified area. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the whole area had been disturbed by Shivanugas. And now, especially, they requested Lord Shiva to come and accept be present at the sacrificial fire. And there is yajna which is called as Shivahina yajna. So one is Lord Shiva. Shiva also means the auspiciousness. So any yajna which is without Lord Shiva, Shivahina, that is baffled. There is inauspicious. Shivahina means it is inauspicious. Now just imagine, there is no question of devotees offending Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest of a devotee, right? So Lord Viṣṇu is called as Yageshwara. And yet, in each of these yajnas, it is necessary for all the demigods to be present, and they need to be honored and given their own honor. So this is very important. So yajna sankirtana praye yajantihi sumedasa. In Kali Yuga, the specific yajna is sankirtana yajna. And when we have the sankirtana yajna going on, currently in my society, His Grace Radhesham Prabhu is there and doing sankirtana yajna. Okay. He goes for Sankirtana every day, 7 to 7:30. So, and all the demigods are present whenever there is Sankirtana Yajna which goes on. Because any Yajna, the demigods will be present. And therefore, one should be completely confident that this is the Yajna for this age, and the demigods will be always present in that particular Yajna, which is actually the only Yajna in Kali Yuga. Next 8. Vidhayakarsnena chattad दाह भगवान अद्यदाह भगवान भवः संददूकस्य कायेन सवनीय पशोशिरः. Translation.
After everything was executed exactly as directed by Lord Shiva, Dakṣa's body was joined to the head of the animal meant to be killed in the sacrifice. Purport: this time, all the demigods and great sages were very careful not to irritate Lord Shiva. Therefore, whatever he asked was done. It is specifically said here that Dakṣa's body was joined to the head of an animal, a goat.
So yesterday there was a question, why goat? Because goat was to be sacrificed, and therefore Daksha's body was joined by the goat's head, and everything was executed as instructed by Lord Shiva. So they were very cautious. वे कैसे तो ये यज्ञ complete हो जाए, and we don't want to further irritate Lord Shiva. Though everything was done as was asked by Lord Shiva, and thus Daksha received the Ajamukha, or the body or the head of the goat. So yesterday there was a question, why only goat? So this is the answer. Text 9. Sandhiyamane shirasi daksho rudra abhivikshitah sadya sukto ivo tattho dadrushe chagrato mridam. Translation.
When the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Dakṣa, Dakṣa was immediately brought to consciousness, and as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. Therefore, the example given here is that Dakṣa got up as if he were awakened from deep sleep. In Sanskrit, this is called supta, ivotastho. The meaning is that after a man awakens from sleep, he immediately remembers all the duties which he must execute. Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead. But by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to the body, Daksha came back to consciousness again. This indicates that consciousness is also individual. Daksha actually took another body when he took on the head of a goat. But because consciousness is individual, his consciousness remained the same, although his bodily condition changed. Thus, bodily construction has nothing to do with the development of consciousness. Consciousness is carried with the transmigration of the soul. There are many instances of this in Vedic history, such as the case of Maharaj Bharat. After quitting his body as a king, Maharaj Bharat was transferred to the body of a deer. but he retained the same consciousness. He knew that although formerly he was King Bharat, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. In spite of his having the body of a deer, however, his consciousness was as good as it was in the body of King Bharat. The arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in his next life he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even if he is offered a different type of body.
So now here, the animal's head was fixed on the body of Dakṣa, and it was immediately brought back to consciousness. And then as if Dakṣa was awakened from a deep sleep, and he saw Lord Shiva in front of him. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that when Dakṣa was awakened, as if he was awakened from deep sleep. Or sometimes, you may some operative or something like that, and you come out of the coma. Coma is that induced coma, I mean. Anesthesia, right? Thank you. So you come out of the anesthesia, and that is like the feeling. So that is how Dakṣa had the feeling of coming out of anesthesia. And Prabhupada writes here a very important point that as soon as he was awakened, he remembered his duties to be performed. And that's what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham riti sannivishto mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Right? So whenever we get up in the morning, it is the Paramatma in the heart who reminds, ki beta, you are so and so, you are supposed to be doing so and so, you have these many desires, and everything is, we just come back to life, and we just come back to, the external consciousness, remember the duties, start performing, and therefore one should always thank as soon as one gets up. This is getting up mantra, right? Karagre vasate Lakshmi, Karamadhe Saraswati, Karamule tu Govindam, Prabhate Karadarshanam. So Dakṣa, he remembered his duties. And then the next point Srila Prabhupada mentions here, although Dakṣa's head was cut off, his brain was replaced. His head was taken away, his head was cut off, taken away, burned to ashes. His brain was burned to ashes. His body was replaced with a head of a goat and a brain of a goat. But the point here is, Daksha's consciousness remained same, his intelligence remained same, and therefore intelligence doesn't come from brain. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned this previous verse also, previous purport. But intelligence comes through brain. Right? It is not that such a simplified understanding. Yahan se intelligence hai. No, intelligence comes through brain, but it is actually the individual soul. And also, Srila Prabhupada highlights another point here, that individuality of the soul and the individuality of the consciousness. Although the body was changed, the consciousness remained the same. Right? Because consciousness is transcendental to the body. Srila Prabhupada gives another example of Bharat Maharaj. So later we'll come across this story of Maharaj Bharata. So this is a big chapter, chapter 7. And then we are going to begin another beautiful narration, that is Dhruva Maharaj. Okay, from chapter 8, we are coming to Dhruva's Leela. But later we'll come to Bharat Maharaj, where he left everything, somehow he became a deer, but his consciousness, by the grace of the Lord, remained within the body of the deer. He had the great consciousness of a yogi, continuation of his spiritual activities. So Srila Prabhupada says, so sometimes one may not be able to complete one's spiritual life in one lifetime, but the consciousness that one develops will be carried over to the next body. And whenever one is done with, say, 80%, he will begin with 81% in the next body. Spiritual life, just like the Atma, is not na hanyate hanyamane sharire, nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha. Similarly, the spiritual advancement, just like the spirit soul has no destruction, body is always destroyed. Similarly, the spiritual life has no destruction. Partha naivehanamatra vinashastasya nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tat gacchati. Very, very beautiful verse. That, on the spiritual path, there is no diminution or there is no loss. It is the eternal gain on the spiritual path. So this is how, by the arrangement of the Lord, is so nice, Prabhupada writes, the consciousness, once it is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in the next life he will be born a great devotee, although he may be offered a different type of body, and classical example is Vritrasur. Chitraketu Maharaj was a great devotee. Somehow he came across incident where Mother Parvati cursed him, and because of cursing of Mother Parvati, he became a demon, Vritrasur. But even in the body of Vritrasur, the prayers of Vritrasur are considered as the topmost prayers in the first 9 cantos. Right. So, of course, the topmost prayers are the Gopis' prayers in the 10th canto, but within the 9th, but he was a body of Vritrasur, and then Bhagavatam will say, Shri Vritra Uvacha, who is Asura, whose death is planned by Lord Viṣṇu, but he himself is the greatest devotee, because Prabhupada writes, the arrangement of the Lord is so great, so nice, that if by a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, he will be a great devotee in the next life, even if he may be offered a different type of body. So here are 3 examples. Dakṣa is one example. Second example is Bharat Maharaj. And the third example is Vritrasur, exhibiting the same thing. Body changed, but the consciousness remained very elevated consciousness. So today we will slightly close early. Today His Grace Radhesham Prabhu is giving Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class. And it's very rare to have his association now, even in Pune. Okay. So we'll close just 2 minutes early. So we'll conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta
Thank you,
Vrinda ki jai.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Everyone.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandot Pranam.